The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio Toronto are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of Tom's Radio Toronto or its staff. These broadcasts are presented and made public as entertainment and general information only, in the hope that they will be entertaining and informative to listeners. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate in any way any disease or condition, or to promote any specific lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice, nor is the information presented necessarily accurate or verifiable.
Hello. There we are. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bruce Gilboard, and this is the Wisdom Show. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, and then we'll go into the show. I'm married, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a former rabbinical student, financial planner. I was even a tribunal judge. Today I'm semi-retired. I like to believe I've been trained in and picked up along the way some wisdom. But my role today is the show's producer, director, and most important, I'm a student of the show. I come to this table that I want to learn wisdom also. And of course, I want you to learn some wisdom too. There's a claim that the biblical book of Proverbs, written by King Solomon, is the wisest book in the world. People say that, but let's look at the text, see where we go with it. That's the basic agenda of the show. And I want to put you in a frame of mind to be receptive to these ideas. So ask yourself, what is wisdom? Just the same, ask yourself, what is dignity? Ask yourself, how do you get respect? And here's a little trick. Why or how does respect avoid you? My broad purpose in creating this show is to better society. My narrow, selfish, terrible purpose is to better myself. And I have a little challenge to the audience. As I said, that there are those who claim that the book of Proverbs is the source and greatest book on wisdom. And I say there's no better book in any language about wisdom than the biblical book of Proverbs. I want you to listen closely to the show, get your own Bible, find it online, and let's look at it together. Let's look at the text together and see if I'm wrong in my claim or I'm right in my claim. Now, there are few people better to help me in this than today's guest. I'd like him to introduce himself. His name is Chaim Shainhouse, but he's got a peculiar thing about him. He's wearing a strange cap. Chaim, tell us about your cap. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Bruce. Before I tell you about myself, I'm getting directions. Before I tell you about myself, I just wanted you to notice two things that I'm wearing. The first thing is the hat that Bruce mentioned. If you notice, I think it says the Beatles. And the second thing is, I happen to be wearing a mask, and you notice that Bruce is not. So the first thing you might ask yourself, A, why is this crazy guy wearing the Beatles hat? And the second, why is Bruce not wearing a mask when I am wearing a mask?
Go ahead.
I was waiting for that. Okay. So the answer, the way I see it, is we have two words. The first word is knowledge. The second word is wisdom. What's the difference? The difference is knowledge is basically a fact. Something comes to your mind suddenly, or a fact that someone tells you. The question is, what do you do with that fact? Does that fact have any importance? Will that fact help you in life? Does that knowledge have any basis that can help you and make you a better person? Well, those of you who still read papers will know that, I think it was yesterday or the day before, was the birthday of Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr, who turned 81 There was a picture. He created a what was it? A sculpture, and he was filmed in front, or his picture was taken in front of the sculpture, along with his wife. Her name is Barbara Bach, who I believe she was one of the Bond girls. He looked great. So the hat, someone could say, "Oh, you're wearing it because of to honor the Beatles drummer." My response to you is, who cares?
I would count myself as who cares.
Yeah. It's really, is it a fact that has any importance to you in your life? Who cares except people who love the Beatles? I don't know why. It's nice to listen to the music, but does it affect your life? Does it affect what you're going to do in life? Is it going to affect your family? What's important in life? The answer is no, it doesn't.
It's about as relevant as an octopus's garden.
Yes, it's true. So I take this nice hat, which I was wearing to show you. It's just knowledge, but it's knowledge which has no bearing in life.
You should fix your keep. It's a little odd.
Well, now I'm going to wear my nice hat, you see?
Oh, this guy's a pro.
I'm a pro. I have a real hat.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't work on top of these earphones, so I'm going to have to not wear it.
All plans of mice and men.
The second one is the mask. Because we're still unfortunately, in the age of the pandemic, the mask has become a symbol of many things. Today, it's become political. However, with a little bit of wisdom, we know now when we can wear a mask and when we don't have to wear a mask. Bruce has been double vaccinated. I have been double vaccinated. And therefore, the general rule today is we take that knowledge, we apply it to the mask, and we realize that we don't have to wear the mask. We're a little bit distanced. We're not amongst the public. And therefore, the mask is not required in order to speak. And therefore, using knowledge and developing that knowledge, I gain some wisdom. So I can take off the mask. Oh, I hope I'm not scaring you now.
You put the mask back, and
know.
there's a little wisdom.
I know that. I was waiting for that. The amazing thing now is I can hear myself a lot better.
Okay, there you go. That was a nice. That in all seriousness, that was a nice presentation of the two words. I'd add, a lot of the book of Proverbs goes on the definitions of the words, and the thing about knowledge as it's presented in English, the Hebrew is dat, and that's, I speculate, is where the word data comes from. And if you look at knowledge is just data, it's figures and so on.
Am I allowed to correct you?
Yeah, go ahead. You don't think so?
No, the word dot is the next level.
Oh, but it's in the same context.
Same idea.
Okay, I'm saved.
Okay. We can get to that after,
Yeah.
Or we can look at it for a moment, since you've asked about
So
it.
for a moment, yeah.
And those of you, or maybe if we have Chabad, in Chabad, it's based on three ideas, the basic ideas of Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat.
Yeah.
Chokhmah is knowledge. An idea comes into your head.
I would have said wisdom.
An idea comes into your head. It may be a bad idea.
Yeah.
It may be a good idea. What are you going to do with that idea? You're now going to work it in your mind, your thoughts, and work on it. That becomes wisdom. You're now developing it. It's like a mother. A mother has a baby, but then it's those first years of nurturing. So Bina is like nurturing. And we're going to get that actually in
I
the
would have
text.
said Bina is understanding.
No, that's a third word.
Okay. Dat?
Dat. So
This is interesting that we have two different traditions on word definitions.
Yeah, but one of us is right. Okay.
An EPO.
So the text is going to mention Bina, how you you develop. The dot is it's all you can also say it's knowledge, but it's more or less it's who you are, it's what you are. It now becomes part of you. You've now taken that thought, you've now developed that thought, and what you do with that thought, it becomes part of you. That becomes the dot.
You won't believe it. We didn't prepare with. You'll see. I'll show this in a few verses. A chart that reflects on that. Reflects slightly differently, but it's a reflection of what you're saying.
So, just to
maybe we should go back to the agenda for today. Maybe we should bring it home to the book of Proverbs.
You want to know who I am?
Sorry. Go ahead. Who are you? Go ahead.
Well,
you're dealing with pros here.
A lot of people want to know who I am. They're still chasing me. My telephone rings a lot. Do you know? No.
Who are you?
Okay. First of all, let me tell you a little bit of myself. It's not really that important. But I'm a product of Toronto. My parents, my mother was born in Toronto. My father came to Toronto when he was 10. I was there for my family. He's been here almost 100 years, a little less. And more extended family. My grandfather's family came to the United States in late 1890s. My father specifically was very active in communal work, while my mother was busy nurturing her children. She also was involved in community work, but not to the extent, because to her, the children were basically her community work. I went to Jewish schools. I went to Associated. I went to Chat. It wasn't the same Chat as today. Matter of fact, my father started Chat. He was one of the founders of Chat.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. And with a few other gentlemen.
Chat is the Community Hebrew Academy at Toronto.
Yeah, he was involved in building a couple of schools for the Associated. And I was taught to volunteer. And that's basically my, and then I went to university, got myself an MBA. And during that time, I also went to Midrash El Morim, which is a program created by the Jewish Board of Education for training Jewish teachers. So I actually got my Hebrew teacher's degree, and even when I was in university, I actually taught a few years in some of the afternoon schools.
Didn't know that.
Ah, yes, and some kicked me out because
Yeah.
different
Can you blame
reasons.
him?
No, I don't blame you. It's true.
I understand the principal part of your career, and I mention this because I want to bring to the audience who's interpreting the wisdom that we're trying to glean out of the text. The principal part of your career is what?
I've been involved in the real estate industry for about almost, 45, 50 years, mainly in property management. Was my main drive. I've done that for all that period of time. I was also a mortgage broker for 20 years. I actually got my real estate license so that when I bought my house, I could get my commission back. And
Wisdom.
yes, using it for something. And I also was a consultant for property assessment appeals for the past many, many years. And as I'm slowly winding down, as we all do, and doing less in that field, I'm looking at the next stage of my education. I'm actually going to Humber College this fall to become a paralegal.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Is it a 3-year course or something?
No, it's a 3-semester course.
Okay, fine.
The sad part is that I have to actually go to the classes to listen to the stuff which I've done for 40 years. They're going to teach you how to go to small claims court,
That's
as a
fascinating.
landlord, all these things I've been doing all my life. That's what I'm looking
Okay,
to do.
good
It's
luck.
fun.
Sincerely, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's not, anything more you want to add?
No, that's basically all about myself. There's nothing else that important. The rest of it's boring.
Okay, so look, let's get into the text. We did 2 weeks ago. We did chapter 1. Last week I had an injury and I wasn't here for chapter 2, but now we're launching it on chapter 3, and just a very, very brief. Do you want to do a few minutes on what the book of Proverbs is? Like, what do you want to do?
Let me just mention something. I don't know what was mentioned before, but the book of Proverbs is it's attributed to King Solomon. There are those who have a view that was possibly written, or the collection of the parables was brought to fore by King Chizkiyahu. But the majority of the scholars accept that it was written by King Solomon. But when he wrote it, it wasn't actually written down. It was more or less parables that were almost songs that were the people would knew, and they would just repeat them. It didn't necessarily in the beginning have that spiritual value. It was more or less just general wisdom. It was only at the time of Chizkiyahu that he realized that the works of Solomon were divinely inspired, and he worked with the sages of his age to bring forth to the Jewish populace the spiritual value in his books. And there are some stories in the Gemara, those who are familiar with the Talmud, which is the oral explanation of the Torah, where there are many sages who did not want to include the book of Proverbs in the Tanakh. What's the Tanakh in English?
Bible.
In the
Old
Bible.
Testament.
The Old Testament of the 24 volumes. They didn't want to include it. They also didn't want to include the book of Kohelet. Kohelet, which is Ecclesiastics.
Both words are hard to pronounce.
I can't spell. If it wasn't for spell check, I would have difficulty. And they didn't want to include the book of Shir Shirim. Shir Shirim, the Song of Song, which is a love song. But in the end, he convinced them to look through it and read and realize it's parables. Parables are there to teach you something, and something divine. And one of the reasons why they didn't accept it, there's certain passages which are contradictory. In Proverbs, there's a passage which is very interesting.
Is it in today's chapter 3?
It's not, but it will just give you an idea.
Sure, sure.
It tells you, this is what it states. It talks about a fool. And in one passage, it actually is in chapter 26, later on, it says, answer a fool according to his folly. And in the sentence before, it says, answer not a fool according to his folly. So you either answer him or don't answer him. And they read things like this. And it said, unless you understand what he's talking about, it looks as if there's something wrong in the writings. And the sages who understood it explained that when it comes to Torah knowledge, when it comes to teaching Torah, if someone goes and is spouting incorrect facts or ideas about the Torah, you're obligated to correct them. Mm-hmm. And therefore you have to get involved with the fool and answer him when he says something foolish. On the other hand, we talk about something mundane matter. He's talking about, what's the guy's name? The Beatles Ringo Starr. He's saying, no, Ringo was born last week, not this week. He's 82, 85. Who cares? Don't get involved with him and don't.
Right. So
when we start understanding what they're talking about, then they suddenly realize the importance.
See, it always comes back to the Beatles.
So in the end, the books were accepted and they were put into the Tanakh. Similar, you may be familiar with the book of Esther. Also, Mordechai had to sort of, he had to lobby the Sanhedrin to include that book in the Tanakh. So it wasn't just a simple thing to include books, the later books, into the Tanakh, which were not divinely inspired by the prophets they knew to include, and even then they didn't include all of them. So these later writings, they had to show the value, and they were able to show the value.
Okay. My arrangement is, let's show depth in Torah, let's show wisdom, let's show it in the book of Proverbs, and let's do it one chapter at a time, get through it, and where there's time each episode, we'll delve into other things. I think my agenda is, we read through chapter 3 in English, then we come back and analyze it as best we can in the time remaining. Chaim, do you want to do that, or shall I? What's your feeling?
I think I
think you're capable of it.
I was taught to read,
Okay, fine.
Not necessarily very well, but I do my best.
Well, I was worried, is the print big enough for an old man like you?
That's why we move the glasses backwards and forwards. One day you people will be at that stage and know what we're talking about. But we start with chapter 3 of Mishlei.
We've got to refer to the English, so it's Book of Proverbs.
You have to forgive me. I'm going to.
Yeah, I know we're going to make that mistake.
I get confused between
I know.
Proverbs. I know.
I know.
Okay. The first sentence starts, "My son, Beni, forget not my instruction, and may your heart keep my commandments." If I can go back a little bit, Bruce and I had a little discussion last night about Proverbs as per his introduction. Is Proverbs written for mankind, or is it written more for the Jewish community? Bruce's sources seem to imply that the lessons of Mishlei, the lessons of Proverbs, can be applicable to all mankind. They're ideas which are universal. My sources say that may be true, but the original reason for the writing of the Proverbs was for the Jewish people. King Solomon was the king of Israel, and the Proverbs were sung and taught unto the people of Israel. And
well,
therefore,
we should take this a little seriously and revisit it another time, because I think there's enough meat on those bones to put it together well.
The reason why I mentioned that, Bruce, is not obviously knowledge. There are many universal ideas that are for everybody, and we all countries, all religions, all people cultures have similar ideas. But you'll see in some of the wording here, it doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. For example, forget not my instruction. What does instruction mean? I mean, if I'm talking to, I'm talking to someone from a different culture or different religion, what does my instruction mean? Then he continues on, and may your heart keep my commandments. Well, my commandments doesn't apply to a person of a different religion.
I would contend each segment of that thought. I would contend it, but let's go for distance. But I have no problem contending it.
Yeah.
Let's go for distance.
Okay. For they shall add length of days and years of peace to you, years of life and peace to you. Kindness and truth shall not leave you. Bind them upon your neck, inscribe them upon the tablets of your hearts. And I will go off just for a moment.
I know you can't keep them.
I have to, in the Proverbs, there's so much in there.
Yeah.
Because the background is so important. When you understand the background, it helps you understand what he's getting.
The thoughts leap out at you. Yeah.
So I'm not going to do it now. We won't. Maybe we do, if after a while.
We'll probably start on the first paragraph. I did a lot of work on the first paragraph.
As to, for example, I'm not going to go through it now, is we mentioned that King Solomon wrote 3 books. And there's many discussions which book was written first. And most people are familiar with Ecclesiastes, where he says everything is vanity, he's tired of the world, everything is terrible.
That rock and roll song?
That rock and roll song, to everything there was a time, etc., etc. Yeah. And the end of it basically is saying is the only thing that's important is the fear of God, the love of God, the awe of God, and that, through hearkening to his words, will lead you to a more fulfilled life and to the world thereafter. And therefore, when you read why he says in sentence number 2, they shall add length of days and years of life and of peace for you. This book, one of the views was a continuation of that book. Rather than Mishle being before, their view was Mishle came after. After he told you everything is hevel, everything is vanity, everything is really useless, except for the fear of God. Now he's coming to teach you how you're supposed to live your life. Teach you character traits, and that's what this book is all about. So those kind of character traits obviously can be universal, because it's teaching you how to be a good person. Everyone wants to be a good person, but some of the things, again, are difficult for a non-Jew to understand.
I think that's our challenge.
To teach the world.
Yeah.
I was going to also, my notes have this concept of tikkun olam, which I was going to go into. Yeah. Maybe we will. It's a misnomer.
Yeah, it's a highly overused, misquoted statement.
Well, I'll mention, since I brought it up, about how it applies, how we have to apply. You're saying we should take Proverbs and apply it when we're out in the world talking to people. We're in our business world, in our personal world. We deal with non-Jewish people and with Jewish people, and how we can apply some of the teachings of Proverbs to everybody.
You know what? That's a good thought. I want to come back to that. But Owen, we'll take a break now, and ladies and gentlemen, as the cliche goes, and now a word from our sponsors. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and with Chaim Shenos, our most talented presenter. We're torn. Do we go off topic and talk about things that are on Chaim's mind, or do we plow through the chapter? I vote plow. He votes go off the furrow.
You're paying me,
Yeah, you're paying double what everyone else is getting. So. What do you want?
I just like to go off topic. I guess not off topic, but I mentioned the word tikkun olam.
Yeah.
The word tikkun olam, which is being used in the whole world today, of fixing up the world, is not just it's a misnomer. It's actually taking something out of context. It quite often happens when people take things out of context that we learn the wrong things. The sentence is in Hebrew letakein olam b'malchut shakai. It's to correct or tikkun, to correct the world or improve the world through the knowledge of God.
It's like man does not live by bread alone, ...
Quote out of context. So the point being that people have, actually, someone's shown me a video of a guy, he's talking about marriage. He says, a man is here, a woman is here. Each has their own bubble.
Yeah.
And they came from their backgrounds, they have their own thoughts, and everyone thinks they're right. Not that they can't change it, they have their ideas, then they're all right. The man has his ideas and the woman has. It's all in their bubble. And if you fit into their bubble, then they love you. If you don't fit into the bubble, you got problems.
Yeah.
So morality is not just something that I can invent. Morality has to come from somewhere. Today you have amorality. In schools, they're taught amorality. There's no morals. Not immoral to be immoral. They're taught there's no morals, no values. People come up with their own values. And therefore, their values will be different than my values. There's no absolute. To a Jew, absolute value of morality is given by the Torah, by God. And that's on that background, on that basis, we understand King Solomon is telling us here, when he's teaching you these things, he's telling you it's coming from God. And when it's coming from God, these are absolutes. They're absolutes. And therefore, I'll give an example. We have a concept, everyone knows the phrase, do unto others as they should do unto you. That's not a Jewish concept. That's the opposite of a Jewish concept.
Isn't it?
No.
It's not in the Torah? It's not in the Chumash?
It's the opposite. Because do unto others means I'm going to...
What's the quote? What's the quote that they're mixing up?
I'll get to it in a second.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't wait. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'll behave.
Go back, I said, the man has his bubble and the woman has her bubble.
Yeah.
So when he does something, for her, he's using his bubble, and he's saying, what do I like?
Yeah.
I like this. And therefore, he gives her this. Now, she's got her bubble. She hates that. Why did he give me that? I can't stand that.
You're talking about like a ring, or what are you talking about?
Anything. Good example.
Yeah.
You'll read Emily Post.
Yeah, all the time.
If you're having a dinner and you're inviting guests over, what would a good hostess do? She'd call up the guest and say, excuse me, do you have any allergies, something you can't eat? Maybe or certain foods you don't like? And you would tell them, oh, thank you for asking. I can't have fish, or I can't have this. So therefore, what the Jewish way is in the negative. It says, don't do unto others what you don't want them to do to you. Meaning, when you're a guest, you're hoping they won't give you the vichyssoise.
Yeah.
You're hoping they're not going to give you whatever's going to sit you next to so and so, because that's what you're hoping. So you are thinking. So when you're going to be the host, you want to know, if you were the guest, what would you not want them to do for you, or what would you want them to do for you? So you have to ask it, go into his mind, ask him.
Oh, I see. It's not just an inversion. It's a step into the other person's mind. That's very interesting.
And that's the Jewish version. So we're talking about how our moral values come from. Torah's teaching this. That always have the other person's interests at heart.
You'll see if we get into the depth of the first paragraph.
Good luck.
No, if we do, well, it comes out. That comes out in my slides. Let's bomb through.
Now we can bomb through. Okay. So.
We got all that stuff out of our system, did we?
Well, I wrote all this stuff. It was down. I didn't want to let it go to waste.
Okay.
Now, by lecture, okay, we'll see what happens.
I'm going to ignore him now.
Okay, so therefore, when he says here, the purpose of writing Mishlei of Proverbs is to give instruction how to make your life better and to extend your life for the future life.
Right.
Going into sentence number 3, it says, kindness and truth shall not leave you. Bind them upon your neck and scribe them upon the tablet of your heart. Then it goes further, and find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Therefore, again, God is important here. It's not just.
There's no sidestepping the fact that they're trying to bring you to a religious, spiritual God outlook. No, there's no denying it. But it gets more. It varies. Well, let's go forward. No, I don't. I have an agenda. Right or wrong. I have an agenda. I might be wrong. I'm not married to my agenda.
In knowledge, there's no right or wrong as long as it leads to something good. There's
a lot of guys on death row who had it wrong.
Somewhere did it accidentally.
Yeah.
Then it continues on, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your understanding. Okay? Here, he used the word bina, actual understanding, as the way you did.
Yeah.
So he's used that when you talk before, the different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But the meaning here is talking about the final way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Know him in all your ways, and he will direct your paths. It's a very famous passage that we quote. In everything you do, God should be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't separate yourself from God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're walking down the street, how you walk and how you behave.
That's the Esav and Yaakov struggle.
Okay.
That's my personal. So I'm fighting with God all the time. Why did you make me do that? Why? I don't want to do that. Go away. It's constant with me, and I think it's constant with everybody. Maybe I'm more neurotic about it.
Well, Bruce, we have the idea. We're fighting about it in shul, in the synagogue.
Yeah.
There's two words. There's
Bruce, keep quiet.
There's emunah. There's
Yeah.
emunah,
Yeah.
and there's bitachon.
Yeah.
Belief, and then there's trust.
Yeah.
Belief in God is I believe in God.
You're saying